Okay, this is Travis Wayne Goodsell. I stayed up last night to work on a video that ended up being probably over an hour, and then slept on it. Was going to upload it this morning, and woke up with a better idea. Why not continue with the destruction of the LDS Church? But obviously my breaking news in the title attracts more people to the site than did my Mormons issue number whatever, when are you going to leave the church thing. So we'll just try that. And the issue for this one is one that I'm taking on, going for the jugular of the presidents of the church. Mormons, you know very well that the president of the church is a prophet, seer, revelator, translator. Okay. Section 107 and 124. I give unto my servant Joseph to be a presiding elder over all my church, to be a translator, a revelator, a seer, and a prophet. And in 107:92, behold, here is wisdom, yea, to be a seer, a revelator, a translator, and a prophet, having all the gifts of God, which he bestows upon the head of the church. See, the head of the church is supposed to be able to be a seer, a revelator, a translator, and a prophet. Of course, that has then been disseminated upon the quorum of the 12, which it wasn't in the beginning. This was Brigham Young who did this. And what have they done? With this great power comes great responsibility. Well, we've seen absolutely no further scriptures added to the canon. What? Yeah, scriptures. See, what was it with Joseph Smith? He is called a translator because of the Book of Mormon. It was afterward. See, for example, section 107. Wow, we're already at, so we'll type in 1, scroll up. See, this is March 28th, 1835, when he is talking about the translator. The president of the church is to be a translator. It was later that year that they obtained the Joseph Smith Papyrus, as it's now called, the Egyptian papyrus. And so Joseph hadn't really done anything in regards to translation. However, if you know your church history from the history of the church, which the church no longer publishes because of the Joseph Smith papers, Joseph Smith wanted to learn Hebrew and Greek and all ancient languages, which those are just classical languages, but he wanted to learn how to translate the Bible. He'd already done the revision of the Bible in a first draft, but he was still pursuing a correct translation of the Bible. And so he was learning Hebrew. Josiah Sykes, or Joshua Sykes, there's a confusion as to the first name, but the guy that got Mr. Sykes, Rabbi Sykes, was the foremost Hebraist in the United States. He had developed an alphabet and grammar of Hebrew, which is why in the book of Abraham you see the firmament being referred to in Hebrew as Rakiyang rather than Rakia. And that's because that's Sykes' training and education from Sykes. And so Joseph Smith was learning how to be a translator, even though Mormons, you believe that a prophet of the church, the president of the church, automatically gets the gift. No, it doesn't work that way, people. So something's wrong in the state of Denmark. And or something's rotten in the state of Denmark. Something like that. Anyway. Yeah, not a single president of the church, not even Brigham Young, who created his own doctrine, who created his own God, who created his own laws in violation of what Joseph Smith established and what we still are suffering the effects of to this day. Even he did not make any new translations for publication. And so what's going on? Where's the gift? You know, you guys are all waiting for new scripture to come, right? Right? Oh, that's right. You think that Ezekiel chapter 37 has already happened. Oops, you're bad. So, yeah, if you're not familiar with Ezekiel 37, why not? Come on, Mormons. This was scripture mastery. You're supposed to know this stuff. Verse 16. Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick, and write upon it for Judah, and for the children of Israel his companions. Then take another stick, and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel his companions, and join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand. You guys have been led to believe that that's the Book of Mormon. Yet, if you go through your conference talks, only Elder Nelson is the one who's spoken up in conference in the modern era to make the claim that the Book of Mormon is the stick of Joseph. Oops. No, it's not. What? No, the prophets would never lead us astray. They are the mouthpiece for God, and blah, blah, blah. No, they're fake. They're false. They get no revelations. They aren't prophets. They aren't seers. They aren't translators. And here's how. So, oh, look at that. Plates of brass are found in 1 Kings. But we want the Book of Mormon version. And that give unto us. No, we want when they finally get it and they're examining it. And I knew the law was engraven, so I killed. Which are upon carrying, took and departed into the wilderness. Alright, so this is it right here. 1 Nephi chapter 5. Alright. And after they had given thanks, which by giving thanks they gave a thank offering on the altar that they created. So that's what they would have done, being good, loyal House of Israel people. Remember, they're not Jews. That's right. Nephi, Lehi, Laban are not Jews. And yet it's hilarious. People say, we're looking for Jewish DNA among the American people. Which, technically, the people who landed in Zarahemla are Jews. Because Mulek was supposedly the son of Zedekiah. And he got snuck out and he came to America. And instead of calling the place Mulek, they called it Zarahemla. But nevertheless, notwithstanding, we have the story of the account of Lehi, and he gets the brass plates. So what are the brass plates? They contain the 5 books of Moses, giving an account of the creation of the world, and also Nut and Gab. Oops, did I reveal the secret? Adam and Eve, who were our first parents. And also a record of the Jews from the beginning, even down. Wait a minute, Jews? This is Ephraim. Isn't it Ephraim? This is the record of the Jews? What's going on? Oh my goodness. Tragedy. Tragedy. And so, yes, this is a record of the Jews. But wait, there's more. And so prophecies of the prophets, but the kings of the Jews. And it came to pass that my father Lehi, in verse 14, also found upon the plates of brass a genealogy of his fathers. Must be Jews, right? Right? Lehi is a Jew. He's from the tribe of Judah, right? Wherefore he knew that he was a descendant of Joseph? What? A record of the Jews, but a genealogy of Joseph. Are you catching on? See, the Book of Mormon is not a real book. It's not a translation from an ancient Egyptian document, as is claimed. Yes, it's Egyptian. Mosiah, chapter 4, 1 through 4, I believe. I don't think it's 1 through 4. I believe it's... We need to check. So, yeah, we'll have to do a back thing. But it's the Book of Mormon is Egyptian. It's claiming to be Egyptian from an Egyptian source document. Yeah, we have to do it. Okay, so we'll have to come back to 1 Nephi 5. Oh, look at that. It's not 4. It's a good thing I did this. Alright, so Mosiah chapter 1 and verse 4. Well, 1 through 4 technically. And now there were no more contentions in the land of Zarahemla. All people who belonged to King Benjamin, being Benjamin, had continual peace in the land all his days. It came to pass that he had 3 sons, called Mosiah, Helaman, and the language of his fathers, taught in all the language of his fathers, that thereby they might become men of understanding, and that they might know concerning the prophecies which had been spoken by the mouths of their fathers, which were delivered unto them by the hand of the Lord. And he also taught them concerning the records which were engraven on the plates of brass, saying, My sons, I would that you should remember that were it not for these plates, which contain these records and these commandments, we must have suffered in ignorance, even at this present time, not knowing the temple mysteries of God, the temple initiation, the temple rituals. That's what mysteries refers to. For were it not possible that our father Lehi could have remembered all these things to have taught them to his children, except it were with the help of these plates, for he, having been taught in the language of chiasmus of the Hebrews. No, dumbass John Welsh. In the language of the Egyptians. Therefore he could read these engravings. Ta-da! The chiasmus theory is bubkus, whatever Yiddish word you want to use. And so there you have it. The brass plates are Egyptian, which contains the genealogy of Joseph, which means it's the stick of Joseph, Egyptian. The stick of Judah is contained on it, Egyptian. You catching on? You getting the picture? And, oh, come on. There we go. We have returned back to the beginning. And so the plates of brass are in Egyptian. They contain the stick of Joseph and the stick of Judah. They are the fulfillment of the Ezekiel prophecy. Where are these plates of brass? Remember, Lehi prophesied that the plates of brass would go throughout all the world, never to perish again, or never perish. And where are they? Oh, the president of the church will find them, and he will translate them, because he is the translator. He has all gifts and the gifts of translation, and he has the Urim and Thummim, the two rocks of Joseph, who stuck them in a hat, and looked into his hat, and translated the Book of Mormon thereby. No, come on, people. God, there's a fool born every minute. So what's going on? The Joseph people who wrote the Book of Mormon are indicating that the Ezekiel prophecy is about to be fulfilled, and that it's going to be the brass plates is what they're using to illustrate what it is. That it is an Egyptian record, a combination of Judah and Joseph into one record. We already have the stick of Judah, which was written thousands of years later by a post-captivity Jew wanting to provide a history of his people, but he also threw in a history of the Babylonian people and messed it all up, caused a lot of problems. And so what you have is a need to restore the Torah. Now the Jews, before you go into an irate tyrant, the Jews also recognize errors and problems with the Torah. Guess who's going to solve those problems? Their last days Jewish Messiah. He will come and solve the problems of the Torah. Wow. Amazing. And so, yes, in Ezekiel 37, if you keep on reading, guess who they talk about? They talk about the Jewish Messiah, establishing the kingdom of David. They make the mistake of calling him by the name David. He's not the name David. He's establishing the kingdom of David. And so it's not King David. It's actually King of David. Oh. So, yeah, the joining of two nouns to become a proper noun is a much later development post-captivity Jew period. It was a Greek introduction. So prior to the Greeks, guess what? You had to put in an of in your translations. And so it's King of David, not King David. King of Solomon, King of Peace. Those weren't their real names. What? So there you have a little bit of translation experience for you. And so why hasn't President Nelson figured this out? Or President Monson, President Hinckley, President Hunter, President Benson, President Kimball, and I think Heber J. Grant, but, you know, and Joseph F. Smith Jr. So, yeah, now you're seeing where I date from in my age. Yeah, not a single one of them have figured this out. Wait, you figured it out. What does that mean? It means the prophets aren't real. They're fake. They have no gift. They're supposed to have the gift. They're supposed to be the ones telling you this, not me. If I'm telling you this, something is different and wrong with your belief systems about the Mormon church that you think you have, that you think you know the truth of. So right there, I've destroyed the church again. Dun, 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 dun. We will all be victorious in fighting truth and righteousness. La 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 la. Yeah, in primary I was making up songs, sitting in the back row. And so yeah. Okay, so is there any more that we need to bring out here? No, this is pretty much it. So, wait, Travis, you're not able to translate Egyptian. Only the president of the church can translate Egyptian through the gift and power of God. Watch and be amazed. Remember the gospel topic essay, Historicity and Translation of the Book of Abraham? Remember, as you've read it, because you're a good, faithful Mormon, that they say that Joseph Smith didn't translate it. What? That Egyptologists and Mormon scholars at BYU all agree that the Book of Abraham is not a translation, and that Abraham is not found anywhere in the record. What? Yes, many people have already left the church because of the gospel topic essays. The church thought they were going to solve problems by lying about lying about lying. You just can't do that. You gotta tell the truth. And so, yeah, the church, not having the gift of translation, have come out officially declaring Joseph Smith is wrong with his translation. What? Yes. This is great stuff. The church is so evil that they're dumb. And Spaceballs, the Lord Helmet, specifically said, good is dumb. So, yeah, it's just amazing. Mormons are the ones who are dumb. Wow. Okay, so, wow, exactly. So, how do you translate then? What did Joseph Smith do? I don't understand. See, you guys have all been led astray by the Egyptologists. Why? Egyptologists translate the text from the Egyptian records. They do not translate the pictures. What? What are you talking about, Travis? I don't understand. Okay, let's do some examples. Make sure we don't have glare. Okay, so this is an Egyptian record. Notice text all along here. That's text. This is all that the Egyptologists translate. They don't translate this part. They don't translate Osiris and these guys. They just identify them because these tell them who these people are. So they only translate this. They don't translate this scene. So what do you mean, Travis? I don't understand. Because this is the judgment scene. This is the temple ritual. You know, the veil of the temple, entering into the presence of God. Sound familiar, Mormons who have been through the temple? Even though Brigham Young added Freemasonry stuff to it. Alright, so Egyptologists don't translate the pictures. What? What did Joseph Smith do then? Did he translate the text? Are you sure he did? Because the church officially sides with John Gee at BYU and says, no, he didn't do that. He just created it out of his head because he's got a link with God. No, that's not how translation works, people. So, Abraham, chapter 1. It says in the text, refer to the picture at the front of the book, papyrus. And that's referring to the facsimile, number 1. It doesn't have text. But guess what? The text that Joseph Smith wrote says refer to facsimile number 1, the pictures. Joseph Smith is translating the pictures to come up with his translation. Now, people are saying, hey, wait a minute, there's the alphabet and grammar that Joseph Smith did, and he was going right to the text of the papyrus. Well, yeah, he was working on coming up with something. He wasn't successful. He didn't finish it. So, yes, he was trying to turn the text into his translation that he came up with from the facsimiles. And so the hypocephalus, that's not part of the scroll. That was the headpiece that the deceased laid their head on. So that's not part of the storyline. That's a separate book altogether. But Joseph Smith reveals that he's translating the pictures, not the text. And so, where do we find facsimile number 2 in the book of Abraham? That's right, chapter 3. Kolob. Just see how it all works? It's amazing. So, what about facsimile number 3? We don't have it. Joseph Smith never got to it. He stopped with the creation. So we don't know what's going on with facsimile number 3 other than his brief explanation for the facsimile. And so everybody says, no, he's completely off. He's wrong. Is he? Is he? BYU scholars? The best and the brightest that Mormonism has to offer, which is worthless, good for nothing, dross, salt that has been trampled on. And Egyptologists, they don't translate pictures, do they? So guess what? Let's tie this all back into one. circumscribed into one great whole, shall we? We have already established that a post-captivity Jew wrote the Torah. I have already demonstrated that the Book of Mormon indicates that the source origin for the Torah is the Egyptian documents. They refer to it as the brass plates. And they say that it is a fulfillment of the Ezekiel prophecy, a merging of the record of Joseph and the record of Judah from the Egyptian records. So Joseph is trying to learn Hebrew and then is talking about, hey, more scriptures are going to come. The papyri from Egypt come into his possession. Do you not catch on what Joseph was trying to do? He calls it the books of Joseph and Abraham. He doesn't get to the book of Joseph. He just gets to the book of Abraham, and he doesn't even finish it. And, okay. Alrighty. So, from John Dee's teacher, I believe, did the book, and came up with this little insert in the book. So you'll have to buy the book in order to get the insert. This is the Book of Abraham part. Am I getting it all on the screen? Yeah. There's some glare here on the left. Alright. So this is the Book of Abraham. That's just a photograph. So there's no plagiarism involved here. People don't understand what copyright rules are. And then here's the Book of Joseph as claimed by Joseph Smith. And you've got to get all of it in there, but you can't. So there we go. And take out the glare. But anyway. So yeah, Book of Joseph. Joseph never got to this part. Oliver Cowdery was supposed to work on it. And so he saw in this picture, let's see if I can, yeah, this picture, the snake and the woman, that he says, oh, that reminds me of Eve being confronted by the serpent. Oliver, did you not help with the Book of Mormon? Do you not know that you guys specifically altered the Torah from talking about Eve falling and changing it to Adam fell that men might be? Yeah, look it up, Mormons. It's incredible. It's just so beautiful. Mankind is the cause of the fall, not women after all. We don't need to put veils over women. We don't need to have women fully clothed so that we can't see their figure. We don't need to blame women for the evils of the world. It's men who are to blame. And the Book of Mormon told us so. This is so beautiful. The Word of God. Yeah. Now go to Doctrine and Covenants. 40? Oh, gotta have to look this up. No, it's not 40, so it's 29 then. Yeah, Fallen Atonement. So Bruce R. McConkie doesn't even mention it because he doesn't want to. He's too ashamed. It goes against everything we believe in suppressing women's rights. So here we go. 29 verse 40. Wherefore it came to pass that the devil, shout at the devil, tempted Eve. No, wait. It says Adam. Tempted Adam? The devil tempted Adam? wait a minute, what? No, there's got to be missing thing. No, this can't be true. My belief system is being shattered. And he, Adam, partook of the forbidden fruit and transgressed the commandment, wherein he became subject to the will of the devil. Shout at the devil! Yeah! Because he yielded unto temptation. Where's Eve? What happened? What's going on? Oh no! But selections from the book of Moses, the revision of the Bible that Joseph Smith did, goes back to blaming Eve. Sort of. Got to keep reading, because later on they refer to Adam being the one to blame. So they mix that up there. Wow. So yeah, is this blowing your mind? I've already demonstrated that the prophets are unable to translate ancient documents, even though they've got the Urim and Thummim rocks of Joseph Smith, and Egyptian documents are all over the place, and all it takes is for one person to figure it all out to put it all together. And I've already done that in the other video, and I've done it on other videos and books. I think can't remember the title, The Complete Egyptian Scripture, something like that. You want to see it? You want to see it? Yes, I'll show it to you. Hold on. I guess we'll pause. Dun, 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 dun. See, I've already got a book on it. But nobody is really interested in it like they are with my Paleo-Hebrew work. What, Travis? You've done Paleo-Hebrew work? You've done Egyptian work? What's going on? Yes, I, Travis Wayne Goodsell, have discovered the origins of Paleo-Hebrew. It is not what William Foxwell Albright claims it is. He's wrong. It is not Proto-Sinaitic. Hebrew was not originally Semitic. What? That's right, boys and girls. Hebrew was turned into Semitic after the Babylonian captivity. Dun, 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 dun. The Jews used their Paleo-Hebrew script and their influence with the Assyrian Babylonian language and threw in a different language. They changed it. They altered it. What? So yes, scholars have been fooled under the preconception that Hebrew is Semitic. So when they discovered the Proto-Sinaitic in Saudi Arabia, am I getting my places right? Yeah, it's Saudi Arabia. I'm sure of it. The Sinai Desert. They found a cave. They found Proto-Sinaitic writing. That's what they call it, because it's in Sinai. Proto-Sinaitic. And they were able to translate it because it corresponded with Semitic Hebrew. And so thus they were able to attach a Semitic Hebrew phoneme for each of the characters, and were able to then translate the cave writing. So the Hathor was the goddess referred to in the cave. And so thus William Foxwell Albright got this Albright idea that, hey, this is older than Hebrew, because Hebrew is a linear script, but this is pictures. So therefore pictures are older than the linear. No. You lose all your credibility, all that you have honors and gain for all your whole life was a waste. You have wasted your whole life, Mr. PhD, Mr. Honored Scholar. So yeah, you gotta put these people in check. You cannot just believe whatever they tell you. Otherwise, you're never gonna translate the full document. You're gonna miss out on many details. And so, yes, how could I have done it? How could Phoenician, Paleo-Hebrew, be something other than Semitic? I don't understand, Travis. It's because you're believing ignorance. The truth is, you gotta compare it with other texts, other scripts. Guess which other script it corresponds with? Paleo-Greek. Yeah. Phoenician, Paleo-Hebrew, Paleo-Greek. And Paleo-Hebrew is the exact same characters, so that's why Phoenician and Paleo-Hebrew I consider one and the same. So it's Paleo-Greek that decided to add more characters. But the characters that they share are exactly the same shape. You know, alpha, beta, gamma, delta. Exactly the same. And that's why Aramaic is not a de-evolution from the Paleo-Hebrew script, which everybody thinks it is. So yeah, people are dumb. They come up with something to support their preconceived notion. That's not a theory. That's not how you develop theories. So anyway, I'm making this the long video. So yes, I, Travis Wayne Goodsell, have discovered the origins of Paleo-Hebrew. And it's not Semitic. It's of the language of Paleo-Greek. And so I can't call it Hamido or Egyptian because it's an alphabetic language. Because Egyptian didn't have alphabet. Not until the Greeks. The Greeks then came up with an Egyptian alphabet, which is now the scam that you get if you were to go to Egypt today, and they would have you tell them your name, and they would put your name in an alphabet of the Egyptian on a little cartouche for you and charge you an overabundance of cost for that little trinket. Or you can go online and buy it there, or you can do some type in your name and then they'll show you it in Egyptian. Yay! That's my name in Egyptian. No, it's not. That's not how they did it. They didn't have an alphabet. If you want your name in Egyptian, you've got to go to the meaning of your name and translate the meaning of your name into Egyptian. Sort of like Peter is the Greek word, unless you transliterate it into Egyptian, which is Seer. I tried to have the church put that as a footnote when I was a church service missionary for the curriculum department, working on changing the footnotes for the foreign language editions of the scriptures that came out in 2009. They didn't want to do that. We've already got linguists experts from BYU who will take care of all that stuff. You just make sure that you do the footnotes. And so yeah, they didn't want to do that. They didn't want to reveal the truth to you guys. So yippee-ki-yay, fun times in the big city. So yes, I discovered Paleo-Hebrew's origins, and it's not Semitic. And then I, having discovered Paleo-Hebrew, then figured out, hey, wait a minute, this same methodology that I used here can work on these Hebrew pictures or Egyptian pictures. Wait a minute, that means that the pictures have more involved in a translation method. Lo and behold, I figured out how to translate full Egyptian text, including the pictures. And as a result, guess what? I made more discoveries. Wow! It's like planting a seed, producing fruit, taking the seeds from that fruit, planting more trees, producing more fruit. You've got a vineyard. That's the scientific process. That's how it works. You don't just have what you claim as a seed and say it's a true seed. I know it because I feel it in every fiber of my being, and that's the Holy Ghost, and it's telling me truth. So where's the fruit? How do I partake of this fruit that you speak of? Oh, I just feel it. I know it's true, and I testify that it's true. Therefore, it's true. No, dummies. If you want to get away with crimes and sins, yes, you want to use that tactic. You can't judge me. You haven't been in my shoes. You don't know. I want to commit sin. Leave me alone. Dummies. Dumb, dumb, dumb. So anyway, we're talking about translation, though. And so, yes, people, I don't have the Urim and Thummim. I am not the president of the church. Yet, lo and behold, I translated the Torah. I restored it. I did it. This was an introduction to that methodology, to that process. I'm not the president of the church. I'm not supposed to have this gift whereof you speaketh. And so what does that mean, Mormons? It means that the president of the church, President Russell M. Nelson, does not have the gift of translation. He may know, is it Mandarin or Cantonese? I think it's Mandarin. But he's clueless because he can't figure it out. Yet I, who have not studied Mandarin, nevertheless, and notwithstanding, in my research of Paleo-Hebrew, went to the ancient Chinese script and looked for patterns. And lo and behold, I found the patterns. And the Paleo-Hebrew script is found in ancient Chinese, a linear script also. And thus, Chinese and Egyptian are one and the same language. There's just some differences in Chinese, which if you know Chinese script, you would recognize instantly the differences between the Egyptian and Chinese. But nevertheless, they're from the same source, because the source word of Chinese corresponds with Egyptian. So the sun, for example, we'll do a simple one for you. In Egyptian, it's the circle with a dot in the middle. And everybody says, oh, that's an eye. No. No. Yes, but no. That's only one level of translation. There's multiple levels of translation in Egyptian. But nevertheless, in Chinese, what is the sun figure? Square dot, often with a line, but it's the same thing. In Chinese, they squared things off. It's not circular in Chinese. They squared it off. So that's why nobody's figured it out. So, yeah, Chinese, Egyptian, the same. And they've done the DNA of Chinese people and have traced them to dun, da, 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 Egyptians. Chinese are Egyptian. And so, yes, if the ancient American DNA is Chinese, guess what? They're also Egyptian. Nevertheless, the Book of Mormon is not true. It was specific fiction as a warning to the American people against the Illuminati, who was going to establish a king over the United States and put us into slavery and chaos, and he will spout off blasphemies, have his MAGA hat over our foreheads, and will force us to have an ID when we go grocery shopping, you know, all that stuff from John the Revelator in his book of Revelations, chapter 13. So, yeah. But, Travis, you haven't translated the Torah for us. You haven't shown us how it works yet. Yes, I have. It's in another video. It's also in this book. But, yeah. What do we have in the Torah to start out with? The creation story. Yet Joseph Smith says, hey, wait a minute, no, there's a pre-mortality that needs to be put in first. Remember, at the end of chapter 3, in the beginning of chapter 4, there's this whole gods thing, and their council in heaven thing, and then you get into the creation story. Well, guess what the Egyptians had? They had a pre-mortal council in heaven. And I brought that up in last night's video, and I brought it up elsewhere, and blah, blah, blah. And I can show you here. This, right here. Get rid of the glare. That is the council in heaven. Those are the people on the council in the Egyptian record. That scene was from the netherworld, Abydos. Abydos? Yeah, that's the Greek name for it. But they're involved in all stages of human life. Pre-mortality, earth life, afterlife. They're involved in all stages. And I went over Hatshepsut in the video yesterday, and I've covered her in other areas, and it's in the book that I showed you. But that's where facsimile 3 comes from. You know, Egyptologists chastised Joseph Smith. Pharaoh is not a woman. She was never a woman. She was always a man. Are you sure about that, Egyptologists? Are you sure about that? Shall we bring up the 18th dynasty pharaohs? Isn't there someone you're thinking of? I thought so. So yeah. So yes, I've translated, in part, facsimile number 3 in this book. It's that simple. It was right in Mormon midst, and none of the successors, as they claim they are, could translate it. They said translation was lost with the death of Joseph Smith. Sound familiar? The priesthood authority died with the death of Jesus and the apostles. Sound familiar? The church fell into apostasy, people. That's what the prophets are telling you. But they can't tell you because then you won't follow them. They need people to follow them. They want money. They want power and influence. They've already changed the vote of the Mormons here in Utah to make their wanting medical marijuana, they've altered that. The church did that. They stepped in and interfered. The church is evil. Yes, they're evil. I've been doing this whole series to help you understand to leave the church. They're evil. They don't have revelation. They're not prophets. They're not seers. They're not revelators. They're not translators. Why? Because I am. I'm doing the job they failed to do. It's been in their midst this whole time. All they had to do was demonstrate to the church that they had the gift. And instead, I rise up, I figure it out. And thus, I figured out how the post-captivity Jew wrote the Torah. He took the various scenes from the Egyptians to write the Bible. So, the creation story, here it is, right here, in the Egyptian records, the whole time. And here's the woman, here's the man. Remember, Genesis 2:4? This is the generations of the heaven and the earth. Who are the generations of the heaven and the earth? Well, the Torah goes into Cain and Abel as the generations of heaven and earth, who they call Eve and Adam, even though there's Lilith involved in this scene as well, which Jewish mystics get involved in explaining. And so, yes, that was Genesis 1. That is also leading into the story of Cain and Abel, because the Egyptian story of Nut and Geb's children were Osiris and Set. Set kills Osiris, takes over the throne. But in the biblical account, Cain kills Abel. Cain is cast out. But Adam and Eve have another son who takes over the birthright blessing status of Abel, and his name is Set, the Egyptian deity who killed Osiris. Just see what he did? He didn't like the story of the Egyptians, of his ancestors, so he changed it. But he still left us clues indicating where the source documents are that he got it from. So now we can restore the Torah, combining the record of the house of Joseph, which is the Egyptian documents, with the book of the Torah, the book of the Jews, Judah. We can restore the Bible. That's what Joseph Smith was trying to do the whole time. He had the Book of Mormon talking about this event of changing or correcting the Torah. And so he then starts the church with the brass plates talked about in the Book of Mormon. Then he goes and does a revision of the Bible. He doesn't finish it, he does a first draft. He then learns Hebrew, but then gets the Egyptian documents. So he takes advantage of this to demonstrate how the Egyptian documents can be utilized to restore the Bible. And he comes up with the Book of Abraham. And that's not all. The King Follett Discourse. He declares that the Torah is translated incorrectly and gives a translation of Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. He's trying to tell us that the need for the restoration of the Torah needs to take place in accordance with the prophecy of Ezekiel. So guess what the bones are in the first part of that chapter, chapter 37 of Ezekiel? It's the Valley of the Kings. in Egypt. The house of Israel are the pharaohs of Egypt. Yeah. That's what all this is about. The restoring of the kingdom of David is the restoring of the kingdom of the 18th dynasty, the David dynasty. Ta'ut. T and D are the same. Try spelling past. Is it with a T or a D? Phonetically the same. And it wasn't just the David, because it also had another word, Moshe, Moses in Greek. Wow. Yes, Moses was of the 18th dynasty pharaohs. He wasn't going to Pharaoh to take away the house of Israel. He was confronting Pharaoh to be the Pharaoh. He claimed he was the legitimate successor of the throne of Egypt. That's what it's talking about. And then you have a division of North and South Egypt. Sound familiar? Yeah, because after Solomon, there was a split between the sons, and the kingdoms were split north and south. Wonder if there's a connection. Yeah. Because King David, yeah, Ta'ut dynasty. So we can restore the Torah. I've already got it worked on. I've already demonstrated how to do it. I did it, not the president of the church. You were waiting for your president to compel you with revelation in general conference. Hey guys, guess what I discovered? I found the plates and I translated them. They're the stick of Joseph and Judah. We've done it. It's great. And we're now making it a part of our canon. No, they're not doing that because they ain't got God's authority. They are not prophets. They are not seers. They are not revelators. They are not translators. For some reason, I am. I don't understand other than I did the work. Anybody who does the work can accomplish it. It's that simple. And I'm wanting to publish books, and I have done for Paleo-Hebrew, but I want to do it for Egyptian also, and I've sort of got it going, but you know, in this book I'm trying to teach you how to translate Egyptian at the same time as giving you the translation of the restored Torah. But I gotta do more simplistic, detailed information for you guys. So we'll see what we can do. We're sort of at the end of the world here with Trump in power and the government and the false prophet of John's at the head of the church. You know, you have to leave the church. We have to hold the church accountable and just leave them. I'm watching the news yesterday, and they're talking about how Europe is all migrating towards nationalism, leaving the globalism. All it is communism versus Nazism, Nazi fascism. It's a dichotomy throughout the whole world. You know, Democrats, communist. Republicans, Nazi fascists. It's the same thing. And so Trump is a Nazi fascist. He's already disclosed it. I'm a nationalist. I'm a white supremacist. You know, he's already acknowledged that's who he is. But that's what's going on in Europe, and they're trying to explain that because communism caters to the leaders, those in power of the economy and the government, the people become poor and they revolt. They don't like being poor. And thus, in those conditions of hatred for communism, globalism, democracy, Democrats, whatever you want to call it, they then choose the other dichotomy, which is nationalism, Nazism. And that also is horrifying. I mean, do you not remember World War II with Auschwitz? You know, the enslavement of Jews, putting them in camps, and then doing psychiatric experiments on them, torturing them, and then finally gassing them, and then burning the bodies of the dead. That's what Nazi fascism leads to. We do not want either party. We don't want communism. We don't want Nazi fascism. And yet that's what they were trying to indicate here, is that the people are revolting in Western Europe because they're upset with communism supporting the rich. And so the poor are revolting, and the poor have no leader. They're wanting a leader. And that's where fascist Nazis take advantage of the situation, and they have a leader rise up like Trump to say, I can fix the problems, I can drain the swamp by making it swampier. That's what they do. And so apparently Mormons, if you're finding out that the church is wrong, you need something else to go to. You're not able to think for yourselves, apparently. And so I have presented a case for you that I know what to do. I have already decided I don't want to lead people. I want a constitutional government. Imagine that. So that the written law is what you follow, not a person, not a leader. Sound familiar? It should. Remember the law of Mosiah? Mosiah steps down from becoming king and establishes a constitution called the law of Mosiah to govern the people. And all that's required is a judicial branch to make sure that the law of Mosiah is kept. And we've seen that judges cannot be trusted either, as in the Book of Mormon as well, because that's how the Gadianton robbers destroyed the Nephites, was infiltrating the Nephites, rising up into power and rank in the judgment seat, and then overtook the power of the government and changed the laws of Mosiah to allow corruption and crime, just like Trump has done, just like the Republican Party has done since Nixon. And they established a king with the chief judge. But we have technologies that can bypass human weakness and error. Computer technology can bypass human weakness and error. And that can be our judicial system. But you have to follow me first in order for us to implement it, because million-dollar ideas, we'd have to do away with the economy as well. No more monetary system of economy, because that is the bribery for corruption. But yeah, the prophets have failed you. They are not legitimate. Brigham Young was not the legitimate successor. Do your research. And the presidents of the United States are destroying our nation. We are in the latter days. Remember, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You guys knew this day was coming. And yet instead you were chanting Trump's propaganda. Lock her up. Immigrants are illegal. Lock them up. Separate families. Despite the family proclamation, separate families. So yeah, this is a big one, but I'm trying desperately to turn Mormons away from Mormonism. Turn away, look away, run away, get out. You know, if you have to follow me until you realize that I'm trying to get you to follow a constitution, so be it. But I've got the revised Torah. The prophets don't. And so this is going to be too long for you, isn't it? You're not going to be able to stay through the whole thing, are you? And there's nobody listening now, is there?